Why is DevOps especially important today?
I think there's a couple of major drivers happening in the market today. Number one, I think organizations over years or over decades have built up these new applications and these technology architectures that have become very fragile. And making major renovation to it or innovating on that platform, or even just making a simple change, there's been catastrophic events in terms of a failure, a major failure in those events. And so we basically architected these very fragile systems. And people have realized there's got to be a better way of doing that. And a lot of this has been based on an old innovation model that has led to what is called technical debt. And technical debt, like monetary debt, has an interest associated with it in terms of time and energy. It's kind of like when you want to put something into production, you want to make a change, but you don't know how to completely fix it, you don't take the time to do it properly, you put a Band-Aid solution and eventually it goes into production and you say to yourself, when I got time, I want to fix that. And that's technical debt. And so systems become very fragile, and it will break very easily, even under simple changes. And in fact, if you look at the financial services industry, the CFOs of these industries have basically said there's $1 billion in the banking industry around this thing called technical debt. Things aren't being kept current because of the old process of introducing change, as well as the fact of having a very fragile architecture. So that's been forcing people to rethink, how do I go about reducing technical debt? How do I introduce change in a safe mode of operating so that I can have predictable outcomes? The second major thing that's going on is, I think we've all seen the digital transformations that's going on in the market. We've seen the introduction of FANG, as we call it, Facebooks, the Amazons, the Apples, the Netflix, and the Google Alphabets, or FANG is the acronym we use, and how they've changed how they innovate and how they're taking over the world in terms of market capitalization. Just like Mark Anderson said, software is eating the world, if you will. And so these companies are moving very, very fast. They've adopted an agile and DevOps approach to how they innovate. And quite frankly, the existing market-dominating organizations that own the market, what's driving them to change is fear. And with fear comes, how do I do this? And they've said, how are these new evolving companies that are introducing new business models like Uber, as an example, how are they innovating? And DevOps is typically the way that's been going on. Companies in Silicon Valley, the startups that we call, or now we call unicorns, which are companies that are less than a year old and have already $1 billion capitalization, these companies are all using DevOps approaches to innovate. And so the established companies are now going to this area where they need to innovate faster, and DevOps is the way to do that. And so that's what's really a couple of the major drivers. And I think now the companies look at this new competitive world that's moving very, very fast. We're finding that the whole idea of strategy is changing. In the old days, you'd set a 3 to 5 year strategy. You'd set a very specific vision. You'd invest a lot of money to understand what that position looks like, how you're going to build your products. You build a plan to execute against those products, to build that environment in that market share. And if you executed well, you'd actually take market share and get the outcomes you want. It's very hard to understand what that vision looks like at this point because the world's moving so fast. And so alternatively, organizations have said, look, we're going to instantiate a platform that's very fast, very innovative, and allows our developers to build new digital services and digital experiences and products and services. And I'm also going to make major investments in the capabilities of the organization to move very fast and be very agile instead of the traditional approach to strategy. So that's, I guess, 2 or 3 of the things that are changing in the marketplace that's driving the whole DevOps movement.